So salt, people tell you how great salt is. All I want to do is ask any of you who have had high blood pressure, when you took any level of salt, even Himalayan, Celtic, crystal, and expensive, yuppie organic salt, does it put your blood pressure up? Of course it does. Because all salt, no matter what they call it, is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride dehydrates the body, contracts internal organs and ventricles and capillaries, makes it smaller. When you put a sodium in that makes your veins smaller, the same amount of blood has to go through the pipe, the vein, and the blood pressure goes up. So the doctor is really right on that one. Don't take salt. Now you need salt, by the way. Salt is central to your well-being. Your immune system would not work. The electrolytes in your body would not function. The energy source. How many of you recognize the green batteries today are made out of sodium? You can actually make a light go on with these. So powerful. But the type of sodium you need is organic sodium. You can get that from very easy and very accessible things like celery and the juice of celery, and celery seeds, and seaweeds. That's where you can get that sodium, because you need it. The sodium is actually the antiseptic that cleans the lymph glands after the lymph gland purifies the body, because it's a major filter system of the body. A study was done in England. It was pretty frightening. England doesn't have nearly a third of the people we have. And they found out by just reducing, not eliminating, just reducing sodium in packaged products, they'd save 75,000 lives a year. Listen to what I'm telling you, people. Do you think that life doesn't matter? Maybe it's somebody's mother, or somebody's husband, or somebody's father, or somebody's child. I think every life matters. And so we do these studies arrogantly in the universities, in our Pearl Towers. And what is done? What is the application of that? There is no wherewithal, there's no leadership, and no consciousness, and no spiritual increment. And our leaders should stand up immediately and say, to save one life, we are going to outlaw putting sodium like that into products. Now, if 75,000 people in this small country of England die, we have 3 times more added up. 200, 250, and maybe more, because we eat more sodium than any country on the planet Earth die in the United States. Do you think 300,000, 200,000 lives of American citizens are worthwhile to say, stop eating sodium? But then you have health authorities telling you how great sodium is? Wake up. Fermented foods. Those of you that saw the panel last night, an honor to be there with these great people who really came from their heart and had a reservoir of experience and humbleness. And one of the gentlemen said, well, you know, the longest living people, by the way, they eat a little bit of meat. Now, that's not true. There's something called the 7 blue zones. It was 5, you may remember. And what happened is the journalist got sick of all of us, because he read the blood type diet, and he read the paleo diet, and the ketogenic diet, and the living diet, and the vegan diet, and the ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-doo-bump. And he said, you're all full of baloney because you're saying this, and they're saying that, and she's saying this, and what's right? So he did the right thing. He went out and saw what people were doing who lived the longest. And it took him a long time. He couldn't find too many people that lived a long time. And there were little pockets of people. We have one, those really wild Christians called the Seventh-Day Adventists, that actually read the first page. The rest of you don't. How many of you are Christians here? Hallelujah. Read the first page. Meat shall be from the trees. Medicine should be from the earth. So they took it literally. So they're eating plant-based diets, and crappy ones. They eat like make-believe hot dogs. And they commonly live over 100. Sardinia, Costa Rica. And they are greatly plant-based. 2 of them eat none in the form of animals. But the one thing they all are doing, except one group, is eating a lot of fermented food. Now, fermented food, by the way, when I studied this, I was surprised. There is no culture, dietary culture anywhere in the world that doesn't ferment food. I was really surprised. In Asia, they ferment food. In Europe, they ferment food. South America, they ferment food. And it wasn't an odd thing when I really thought it out, because before there was refrigeration and you lived in colder climates, how did you have anything to eat in the middle of winter? Unless you fermented it or put salt on it if it was an animal, or put sugar on it if it was a vegetable. Now, this is where we got into the sugar and salt habits, by the way. Because before refrigeration, first refrigeration was in the mid-1800s, started in Scotland. Took really a long time until the 20th century, till it was greatly employed. And when my grandfather was a young kid, and my father remembers it, who's now in his 90s, ice boxes were called ice boxes because they took a big block of ice, and they lasted a week, and you put some stuff in there. But before that, it was salt and sugar. Why? Because life forms do not live in salt and sugar. Fermented food, lots of life forms live in it. And the good news is, when you take something like the cabbage family, such an enormous amount of sulfur in it that it doesn't let bad bacteria come in. But it does give you something called I'd like to have a little bit of that versus a low immunity. So when you're taking in this nectar of extraordinary healthy probiotics, it is going to engage and raise your immune system like nothing else. So you don't have to eat a lot of this, little bits of it throughout the week. Watch out, the kimchi has a lot of what in it? Sodium. You can make it on your own without that. Sauerkraut, if you buy it commercially, may, and most of it's cooked. You don't want the cooked variety. And this is so easy to make. Hopefully, all of you will be wise enough to buy yourself an appropriate juicer. Not one of these, but one of these. Like the teeth, hundreds of pounds of pressure, squeezing deep into the cell of that leaf. It extracts the blood of the plant, the sun from the plant. And that same juicer, if you put a blank in it, if you put cabbage through it, homogenizes it and makes mushy cabbage that you can now put into a jar, sit on your counter 12 months a year for 3 days, and voila, you have sauerkraut. Now, to add some new dimension to that for antimicrobial problems, anti-mutagenic problems, throw in some garlic cloves. If you're German, you'll probably want juniper berries in it, because that's what you remember as a child. You can put parsley in it. By the way, you can take the juice, don't put the blank in, of cabbage. Then take root vegetables that have low sugar content, not carrots and beets. You love them, I know. And you soak them in that juice of cabbage for 4 days, and voila, now you have fermented root vegetables. And you know how much this costs? So little, nobody can't afford it. And how long does it last? If you refrigerate it, months, year and a half. So you want fermented food to raise a what? Immune system. The immune system loves fermented food.